Asking for it. A novel approach. Episode 12. Chapter 45. Lance keeps trying to commit something useful to paper, and he keeps coming up dry. He's put the iron in Manfred's fire, but the old prick has been so dismissive that Lance is feeling uncharacteristically short on confidence. What feedback he's received has only led him to more research of his own. Unfortunately, this has not meant earnest hours spent combing the stacks at the university or the central collections libraries. Library skills were never his strong point, even during college days. Everything is done online these days anyways. But just Google Lysistrata and strong women, for example, as Lance has. There are pages of links to theatrical analyses and to relevant scholarly articles examining the guerrilla war protests of Athenian women circa 600 to 500 BCE. But these are interspersed with links to the vast virtual realm of online fetish porn. Scholars with certain erotic predispositions must contend with considerable distraction. He'll send Meekness more money. Lance has made a rapid journey from innocence. Business class, you might say, willful and otherwise. He's always had a thing for bossy girls, but he never realized he was related to such a broad and bewildering community. It began with a fleeting, vicarious thrill at some anonymous stiff taking a beating at Michaela's hands. And that sweet victory of hers over the lowly male remained the sexy's psychic touchstone that triggers his desire 100 times a day. But he's come a long way in a short while since that poignant introduction. His current masturbatory regimen finds Lance unable to look away from an endless parade of disgraced masculinity, all on his laptop's display. He snaps out of it the moment he's come, too late, he fears, to avoid psychological imprinting of who knows what depth. Doubtless he's paying a hefty price for the internet's endless cheap thrills. For the first time in his life, he understands what it means to feel dirty. Dirty, and what's worse, addicted. He didn't even see it coming. Despite feeling sadness creep over him, he didn't realize how profound a habit he was forming. This past week or two, he's actually spent more time wanking than working on anything productive. He's heard impatience creep into his voice, caught himself more than once cutting short conversations with his chatty clients. That was impatience with himself. His stock in trade is listening sympathetically to anxious artist types. Now he watches the breezy palms outside wave and waggle randomly. He daydreams as a voice on his cell bemoans lack of exposure, imminent poverty. Occasional piquant images intrude upon his drifting. Before long he's back online, searching out more pornographic spice. Maybe living under Michaela's surveillance represents a viable solution. He'll miss the ocean view, but then he's already lost his perspective on what is most important. He's only got an overnight bag parked in a corner of Michaela's living room so far, but what seemed absurd at first now seems like a bit of a godsend. Wading through the Everglades of human degradation online, Lance has followed the shorthand of fetishists enamored of everything from frilly pink princess wear to chowing down on excrement. He's followed links to behaviors he couldn't have fathomed a few short weeks ago. When a naked gimp lies prone on kitchen floor tiles, opens his mouth wide, and consumes the grit, pet hair, and general filth swept up by some giggling girl-next-door type, Lance feels the defilement himself. He's seen enough male genitalia kicked and stepped on, burned with cigarettes, and confined in endlessly painful and humiliating ways. He finishes his sessions online feeling sick at heart. He can't hit Command Q quickly enough, erasing from his big power book's display at least. Whatever lurid scene has finally pushed him over the edge. But in his mind's eye, the dance of denigration continues, fading only gradually. It surfaces again and again throughout his days, interrupting his conscious train of thoughts before slipping back to the subliminal. On and on until, helpless to resist temptation, he's back at the computer an hour or two later. What the hell is wrong with him? He should be fluffing up his clients' self-esteem in the doldrums before their next gigs. That's his job, the service he provides. More significant than the work he can actually line up for them. More important even than the money he can make doing so. Lance needs to regain control. He does some professional fence mending, but his heart is hardly in it. He's as tired in the working world as he is avid in his fantasy life. As a vicarious masochist, he spends so much time absorbing pain and humiliation that he's starting to have trouble sleeping through the nights. The wide variety of SM fare crowding Michaela's little niche online amounts to a world where Lance is constantly teetering between the exciting and the repulsive. It gets him very wired, mind racing but in neutral, going nowhere fast. When he finally overheats, blows his load, and shuts the damn computer off, his mind just runs on and on, circling its passionate fixation, focal point of an obsessive circuit. The barely audible frequencies of his computer's monitor seem to persist, somehow amplified once he's powered down, like a dose of tinnitus always ringing there in the background. Closing his eyes at the end of his physical energies, sleep will still evade him. Volumes of sordid information are collecting in a sprawling dump in his conscious mind. He struggles to banish indelible images of well-thrashed men on their knees, of pathetic, pleading men groveling on filthy basement floors, and of their brazen vixen abusers, forever rubbing verbal taunts into psychic wounds, freshly inflicted and deepening all the time. 99% of this orgy is pure acting. It matters little. Still, on into another night he surfs, going deeper, training neural pathways in a tight Mobius strip. Precincts within his brain are forming sailor's knots, knots of obsessive complexity. The sleeplessness and sickness at heart are ominous. The avocado couch always beckons, its leather like a second skin. He is 26 floors above the traffic of the city. He can see the ocean through his glazed wall. He can sense the sea of humanity down there as well, but their psychic distance from him is often immeasurable. There are crumbs on his kitchen counter, dust motes never before visible in this apartment. These are minutiae grown gigantic in the past week or two. A minor scuff on one of his glossy loafers holds his attention from across the room. For how many minutes now? How many minutes neglecting his old life's agenda? Enough! He's losing his grip. He needs to get to work on this event for Michaela. Produce something tangible, something he can concentrate on. Port St. Lucie is not the center of the entertainment universe, but it has given Michaela her humble diva beginnings. Look at it like they're giving back to the community. The Edge already has a venue. Dick is desperate for, quote, lessons in the biz. Well, lesson number 1 can involve event promotion as vehicle to career projection. Michaela's local star will burst over Port St. Lucie before going supernova somewhere in the nexus of Streetheart's plans with Recalculate, Hollywood if possible, even the smutty virtual world if it comes to that. Lance calls Dick. E-transfers him some cash, sets the ball in motion. Some graphic design magic right off the bat. Dick can hire a little army of slop-and-paste poster punks to get it on the street. This week the buzz begins. at least among the young and indie crowd. He'll see what Dick is really capable of when they go online with this thing. There'll be no licensing hassle. The terms fight and competition will not figure in any of the preliminary bits. Strictly entertainment. Everything else towards showtime will lead the public to expect a spectacle of prize fight allure, and without the usual hefty price. He didn't think much of the idea when the Edge pitched it. He and Michaela apparently intent on a barely PG-rated event. Now he sees nothing but potential. Optimism washes over him. They'll be swamped. Swamped will only mean about 200 people, maybe. What the gym at Abs and Jabs can accommodate, but that's fine. Much better 200 jammed in a tight than 2,000 in a hall where 5 could fit. Energy is the key, and there's more energy where there's less room for it to dissipate. Besides, it'll be a documentation endgame. He's going to want a couple of cameras, a boom man, and Sherry, his ace-in-the-hole production assistant. Sherry can wrangle some thicknecks for security. It'll be a bit of a circus, but probably a whole lot of fun as well. 45 minutes later, Lance has made 3 calls, composed and distributed 2 group emails, and a teaser press release. He rides the elevator down to his building's lobby. The brushed aluminum ceiling, mirrored walls, and malachite marble green flooring are barely familiar to him. When did he last exit the building on foot? Crossing the lobby, he nods to the concierge and puts on his shades. He breathes in as the sliding green glass doors open. Less than a block away is a florist. He pushes off from his building's AC environment and strides into the brick oven heat. A few more energetic strides and he's achieved enough momentum to carry him down the block. Heat penetrates the pores of his skin as he switches to an energy-conserving lope. He will never acclimatize and make Miami's heat his own. Just before he can break a sweat, he's gliding in through the deep blue sliding glass doors of the florist. 100 varieties of genetically enhanced flower confront him. Their moist and cloying scents blossom in his nasal passages. Cool, misted, faux tropical airs bathe his lungs, scorched dry by their brief exposure to Miami's baking pavements. Lance removes his parasols. A man in his late 50s, lily-white complexion, white loafers, white linen pants, and champagne shirt, emerges from the dense designs of flower and foliage. "I need something for a goddess." The man doesn't flinch. "Age, fashion sense of humor. Give me this brief introduction and I can accommodate the most exacting deity. Shall we shop?" Peace and a general sensation of well-being suffuse him as Lance follows the man into the displays. Maybe he'll stop in and see Sam, his shiatsu guy, as well. It's been a good 2, maybe 3 weeks since his last deep tissue fix. He is going to relax. He's going to chill on the personal gratification and get back to building a career for Michaela. A career to outstrip the porn game. Chapter 46. The tall, geeky cute junior editor is looking over Jamie's shoulder. Jamie is the only remaining staff writer who can remember the original publishers of the Lucy. The two are having a giggle over something off the mother. The mother is a bulky column of variously outdated electronics, situated awkwardly at an intersection of 2 windowless hallways connecting the paper's news, copy, and creative precincts. It fields everything from AP wires to the old-school faxes that still arrive occasionally from who knows who. It is one of these that Teddy's colleagues are giggling over. Teddy approaches the two with an affable face and playful rolling gait. She is quite aware of the hard-ass reputation she has around this place. "What up, spooks?" The younger woman looks up, but immediately dips her enormously bespectacled gaze back down to the page on Mother's outfeed tray. Jamie picks the sheet up and deftly shakes it out open for Teddy to see. "Even you might get a kick out of this, BT." It's a press release, one that looks like a demented Valentine's Day card. It features an Ed Hardy-style design depicting a tattooed pirate girl smiling imposingly over her big flexed biceps. The tagline reads, "It's Valentine's Day. Someone has to pay." Teddy doesn't smile. She doesn't comment. She doesn't move a muscle until Jamie slips the paper back onto the tray. "Jesus, Chilton, do you drink piss for coffee every morning?" Teddy's distracted silence irks the senior staff writer, and she turns to go. The younger woman quickly falls into step behind her. "What?" Teddy's belated reply goes unheard. She picks up the paper for another look. The pirate girl is definitely a caricature of Michaela. But what the hell is it all about? Valentine's Day was months ago. There is no info, contact or otherwise. She thumbs the number still displayed on the fax machine into her iPhone. Press release or porn propaganda? The image would probably do well online. Might even go viral. The number returns, big surprise, a screechy fax signal. Teddy takes Michaela's facsimile over to the copier, runs one off and puts the original back on Mother's out tray. Chapter 47. At 4 a.m., the Edge is awake, wide awake. His heart's racing like someone has a knife at his throat. Michaela asked him to watch her place. Told him to use the bed while she's gone. Just for a day, maybe two. In the pillows he can smell her hair, her skin. He's broken a sweat just lying here. He wants her so badly he can't admit it. So bad his body won't even allow it. His chest is tight. He has to get up, get out. The very idea of an anxiety attack would have made him laugh even a week ago. He's not laughing now. He needs air. He pulls himself up and off the bed, stumbles through the dark apartment, throws open the front door, and stands for a minute catching his breath. After another minute he feels some relief, goes back indoors long enough only to pull on his pants, hoodie, and some trainers. Then he locks up and strides the mile down the road to the beach. A steady onshore wind rattles the palms as he goes. Occasional fat drops of rain slap into his face. The deserted coast road, bathed in the orange glow of sodium streetlights, feels like a stage set for some automotive tragedy. He crosses and plunges back into darkness, down the shallow dune that separates the roadway from parking lots and the beach. The surf is turbulent, waves cross-cutting each other, spume spitting up at their intersections. Even the blackness farther out is far from complete, punctuated with rolling whitecaps. The Edge strips off his clothes, wades in up to his waist, twists and falls back into the waves. It's brutally cold, isn't it? The turbulence of sand and water coursing over his skin, he can't be sure. It might be spa tub hot, or just the friction of scouring sand. He closes his eyes. It's quiet under the water. He is afloat, or suspended. Sinking, maybe? He's holding his breath. No, just not breathing. Face down to the bottom, rolled onto his back, facing the shore, then yawled out seaward. He can swim. Or no again. He's never learned a thing. The Edge grabs his balls. They're shrunken, tiny. Maybe they've always just felt that way. Time was, is, still might be. He understands nothing, but he feels the risk. He should get back out of the water. The first thing he sees is a building-high silver tongue twisting up out of the sand. Not the sand. He's looking out, offshore. The tongue is a towering waterspout. The ocean sucked greedily up through its wavering funnel into a sky-wide mouth. He can't touch bottom, 30, maybe 40 yards out. The spout slicing now toward and now to the left of him. There's a roaring, scouring frenzy in the air, in his ears or just in his head. The spout is a quarter-mile out, slicing back across his vision once more, moving fast, easily 100 feet closer now. Water is whipped up from the waves, stings his eyes shut. Finally, the funnel spends itself, heading out and away again. It's almost gone from sight. Flat on his back, on the sand, on the beach, the Edge gasps for air. The air is warm. He stares blindly up into the night sky. The air is tough. It muscles past his lips and teeth, a visceral sensation. A very large and energetic tongue. It wrestles with his own. The tongue's combined writhing girth tests the walls of his throat. The sensation is only lasting a few seconds, but there's the promise of strangling, surrender, and death. When it's past, the Edge revives. Slowly, elation displaces the trauma. He's just won a lottery, dodged a bullet, and gotten laid, maybe all on the same night. His body is light.